Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to today's video. We're going to talk about some newer stuff, old stuff, modified stuff, and stock stuff. But first, before we get into the video, I'm fixing up the Corvette and selling the Trans Am, which it is sold at this time if you watched it. I'm sorry, we're moving on to something different. I want to give a big thank you to today's video sponsor, Jackspania Racing. So let's show you guys the fabricated intake manifold and throttle body setup that they sell for RLS cars. Let's open the box. Oh, it's such a sad sight. The Trans Am is off of the welds. More to come on that later because the gentleman that bought this for me is coming to pick it up right now. So long as the roads are okay where he lives, because we are still getting snow in this part of the United States. But let's open the box. Jackspania Racing makes all sorts of stuff for LS cars, imports. Nope. Don't play with your knife. Yeah, there. Okay, that's all. They offered to send a part in exchange for an advertisement in today's video, and I saw that they offer this fabricated intake manifold for our cars. And honestly, it looked pretty dang good, if I'm being honest. And to boot, it comes with a big old 92mm throttle body, so that's pretty cool. I didn't really quite see what it all came with, but it looks like it's got some fuel rails. We got our crossover kit bolts, kind of everything you need to put this intake manifold, which is super light, hang on here, onto this car. I don't think it would clear the hood on this particular car, but if you got a cowl hood kind of deal, I think that's more what it's for. I'll have to go through the advertising a little bit more. But let's get this on the bench and check it out. First impression, looks pretty good. I gotta be honest, I know it's aluminum, I realize this, but I am surprised at how light this thing is. And you know what? That thing looks pretty good. Like I've always said, I very seldom take channel sponsorships. It's got to be something that actually would fit, you know, with what's going on with what I'm doing here. There's a little pit right here. Be a porosity, I think is the right word. I forget. I went to welding school years ago, but I'm way out of practice. But overall, these do look pretty good. I'll give you guys a nice little slow-mo of it, and you be the judge. Tell me what you think of that manifold. This intake manifold is described to fit LS1, LS2, and LS6 4.8, 5.3, and 6-liter heads as well. It's made of high-quality T6061 3mm aluminum sheet metal and can handle up to 30 pounds of boost and suitable for vacuum. The CNC machined head flanges, the entire manifold is TIG welded. If you want more information on this intake manifold, it fits all sorts of stuff from Corvette, Cadillac, Trailblazer, SS, Pontiac GTO, and Saab products with the 5.3-liter V8. It does fit Cathedral Port, LS1, LS2, and LS6 heads. Okay, so obviously I won't be putting this together, I don't have injectors, but they do come with these two billet fuel rails. They've got different adapter sizes for your different fuel feed lines and returns, I guess, as it would be. But overall, looks like a pretty nice piece. There's some scratches on the finish. I believe it's anodized, but it is a little bit chewed up, maybe from shipping, maybe whatever, but there's some love marks on everything, but maybe it's a product of shipping or how it's handled. You do have all your fuel rail bolts and port gaskets and everything too. So pretty much a complete kit. If you're doing a cheap whirly boy setup like I've got with the turbo over there and one of these intake manifolds, you got a pretty cool start to a nice looking setup for your LS project. So link in the description to this exact manifold if you want it. There is no discount code. Looks like it comes with maybe their own flavor of idle air control motor and a throttle position sensor, neither of which have any casting marks on them, so who knows if that's something you'd be able to service or not. But throttle feels good, turn spring's tight. You do have PCV fittings here. There's a little bit of a bevel on the throttle body, so that was nice to machine that in. The very end of the manifold is billet that you would actually clamp your manifold to, so that's billet. The looks like this is machined out of billet too, the cylinder head flanges. But anyway, Jackspania Racing, if you want to check them out, there's a link in the description. Thank you so much to those guys for sending this over. It may find a home on a project someday, or who knows what to do with it. But it is a nice looking manifold, and if it fits, I think you get good value for a few $100. So tough to beat that. So in the last upload we left off with Mr. Dr. Pepper behind us. We're going to do some more TLC and cleanup and a little bit of maintenance to it. And I believe by the end of this video, the Trans Am does have a new home. and the Corvette has a buyer, because I'm buying something different. And don't worry, it's another F-body. I'm gonna have a pretty cool F-body on the channel from somebody that I've known through the internet for a while now, and I'm looking forward to go meet him here. At this time, it's in a few days, and pick up a pretty cool car that's pretty well sorted. So I'm excited to show you guys that stuff. But for now, we are gonna go through the C4 Corvette. As you can tell, if you watched the last video, it's looking a lot more dialed in than it was when I bought it. It's in pretty good shape now overall, and honestly, at the stage it's in, it's a pretty solid driver. If you wanted to hop in something that you weren't afraid to get a little dirty, put some miles on it, and actually have some fun, because these cars are a lot of fun, and in my opinion, the C4 is a highly underrated vehicle, especially for the money. Now, I got a little bit lucky when I found this one, that when I went to look at it, it was in a pretty poor state, and the owner that had it didn't list it as being a Z07 car, which some guys would argue, you know, give it or take it. It's good, bad, neither, but I find it very cool, and it's, in my opinion, what a C4 should be. You know, it's not a standard coupe. But enough rambling about that. You can find a lot more info on the internet about this particular model of C4, but we got it looking pretty fresh in here. The interior is all cleaned up. It's no longer sort of a abandoned project or whatever. The paint's looking strong, the Dr. Pepper decals are gone, and I gave the car a pretty thorough once over, and I put, you know, 130 or 40 miles on it in the last few days up here while it was nice out. So I got to know the car pretty well, and we will hop right into it. Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to today's video and update on the Corvette. We have lots to go over. There's lots of chaff, stuff, mouse droppings, garbage, cigarette butts, tapes, and other such assorted things inside of this car to clean up and make it a more hospitable environment to spend some time in, and try and bring it back to a little bit of its former glory, as it would have generally been considered a nice and expensive car back in its day. I think at the time these were stickering in the mid $30,000 range, and in today's money you can just over double that, and they're about the same price as a new nicely optioned Corvette, let's say in the 70s or 80s, something like that. You got to think of how much depreciation has actually happened these over the years. Case in point, just a few short years ago, in 2006, man, there's just big garbage everywhere. So I'm picking up the big stuff that my vacuum won't clear up. And apparently there's a way to remove the seat bottoms. I'm just going to peel those right out. It's like a little trick on these. So you can actually pull out the seat bottoms really quickly, and I'm going to do that. Alright, so I had to look it up real quick, but here is how you take these bad boys out. Down low here, there's a little wire, a little piece of wire right here, and basically what you do is this. This is actually very handy. Push it down, you reveal a full pack of cigarettes here. At least most of the poop in here appears to be petrified, so that's good. Check that out. C4 activities. So I'm gonna put gloves on, get a vacuum out, start cleaning. I don't think anything's alive in here. Frankly, it doesn't smell mousy. You have to take my word for it, but down in here, it is absolutely been mousy. Let's glove up and get to cleaning. Okay, so the first kind of cursory vacuum and whatever is all done. I'm gonna bring out my extractor and do a little better. I don't think, well, I don't know yet. I may pull this whole seat bottom. I think they probably come out pretty easy, but it's coming pretty clean under there and disinfected. I did use a spray disinfectant on everything that I'm kind of touching as I go, but I actually still have to use some product on the carpet here. I just vacuumed it a little bit. Same with the center console, whatnot. But it's cleaning up. Passenger side seat bottom below it's cleaned up pretty good. I got to hit the vacuum one more time down there. But anyways, this is what I found under both of the seats so far. A lot of the bigger stuff I just threw away that I could just grab, but there's actually quite a bit under there, even a bungee cord. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep cleaning up, and I'll check in with you guys again in a little while. Okay, so I got the whole cowl area clean, even inside of that little vented cowling area. Got all the little leaves and debris out of there. It's cleaned up. Same with the engine bay. I've got a set of valve cover gaskets coming. They'll be here tomorrow. But so far the interior's coming along pretty well. I'm going to buy a steam cleaner. I'm finally going to get one because the driver's side seat has some pretty heavy deposits. The carpet, trunk area all came out really well. Totally usable and sanitary now. It's been disinfected and even ozone sprayed it a little bit. I did clean up the dash area and the center console some. Dive in deeper once I am done with the carpet and the interior and it's all done and drying. But door panels and everything all cleaned up. You know, quick detail and everything on the door jambs. It's not quite done. I gotta wash it. At which point I'll actually do a little bit better job. But here in particular, there's some very heavy grease staining on the seat bolster. It's lighter up here because I started working a little bit with the microfiber towel and some interior cleaner, but I think a little bit of heat and a brush will do wonders on it. It should speed that up quite a bit. So, I got a really good start on the interior. All the excess garbage is out, all the changes out of all the nooks and crannies and whatnot. There's a couple of hidden treasures here and there, I'm sure, but this is a really good start on the car. And check out what got extracted. So this is what came out of the carpet even after cleaning it. Absolutely disgusting. So I can almost do this again. I mean, the majority of it's from all over the car, but basically that's how disgusting it was in there, even after cleaning it up with the shop vac and whatnot. These extractors really are what do the trick. Alright, so it's day 3 of kind of cleaning it up, and what I actually went and bought is this cheap little steam cleaner from my local department store. I started on the driver's seat bottom, and it was as dirty as the side bolster, kind of where you come in and out. And honestly, after watching all these Ammo NYC videos over the years, I finally bought this handheld steam cleaner. I wanted a wand one. It was over twice the price. And didn't quite have the features I wanted in it. So I thought I'd try this. I figured it would work for the seats. And I'll get an idea of how well it works. But it works awesome. So you can see that seat bottom I spent more time on than this part. And clearly it did a lot. I mean, I put a little bit of interior cleaner on it. I think you can use pretty much anything, but the idea is you are speeding up the agitation process by introducing heat into it, and it does work really, really well. So I'm impressed. You can see the results already after just a couple of minutes. It's a huge difference, so it's going to clean it up really well. I'm going to keep working on this seat bottom, and yeah, I'll get back to you guys in a little bit when it's all done and see what we got. Alright, so the carpet kind of is what it is. There is some staining and there's damage, so it's not all going to come clean, but I think today I'm going to actually take out the seat bottoms. I'll see what I can do with the seat in the car. Maybe I will end up pulling out the seat backs if it's not too big of a deal. I don't know what it takes. But again, we're just going for a really good driver quality detail and cleaning. It hasn't been cleaned like this in, you know, I'm sure a decade or two, so everything we do is going to kind of compound and make for a really nice finished product. So here's a little before of the seat. Make it a better light. Alright, so I got this floor reasonably cleaned up. Everything's disinfected with my little bacterial spray, and I extracted this a couple of times, even after agitating it more, you know, with a spin brush and using my extractor, of course. I'm getting down to pretty much the end of it. Frankly, this is below the seat anyway, so no one's gonna see this at the end of the day. This is much more sanitary than it was. So I'm gonna go do the same thing on the other side, and we'll see what's under that seat. See what hidden treasures are beneath door number 2. One more connector. Check it out, another cigarette. Times were different back in the early 90s. Well, things are escalating quickly. The interior is cleaning up a lot, but the more I look, the more and more disgusting it really is. So I'm gonna have to take apart this whole selective ride control center section area. I'm gonna disinfect everything. It's full of cigarette ashes and more change and just garbage. I mean, you name it. Hopefully this will be about the last of it, and we'll start putting it back together and call it good enough. But yeah, it's one of those things, the more you look, the more there is to do, and hopefully this will be the last big bulk of it right here. Alright, so the majority of this mess has been cleaned up. I'm not going to be able to get 100% of it. The selective ride control and seat adjuster, I lifted it up and I scrubbed really good under it and I vacuumed it out, but I couldn't wipe it down because these harnesses run under the center console and they're like banjo tight on each one. So without removing the entire center console and opening that can of worms, I'm probably just going to go ahead and skip that for now. You know, call it cutting corners, call it what you will, but I lost a lot of motivation here when I reached across and I shaved off a groove of skin and started bleeding all over, so that took off a big chunk of flesh, and I was like, okay, I'm done. So looks like old Forrest here fought back a little bit after the cleaning I've been making it take for a while. But the center console is cleaned out, all the ashes are out, it's sprayed down, the car's smelling like pretty okay. It could use some time outside to just air out, of course, and I might just leave it outside for a while today to let it do just that. The center console is all cleaned up. It's got some damage, so this thing's gonna be like, you know, 90%. It's gonna be like 80, 90% good or whatever, but it's much cleaner than it was. So as I'm trying to achieve with the entire detailing of the car, it's just gonna be an okay driver when it's all done. So I'm gonna continue on. Okay, now that the interior is mostly dialed in, I need to focus on a mechanical issue on here, or a gasket issue rather. So this does need valve cover gaskets on the driver's and passenger's side. I've already taken off the engine dress-up cover there on both sides. Wiped them up a little bit. I'll put some dressing on, they'll turn out pretty good. That's the transparent top for the car. This car is optioned with the painted solid hard top for the Targa roof. It also has the clear roof, which is a really nice option to have with the car, especially because it was a factory option on the RPO code list. Anyways, I've got the massive clamshell open and I'm gonna get to work on here. The passenger side looks like it might be okay. This EGR tube might cause a pain. I don't know yet. So I'm not really looking forward to taking that apart. But nevertheless, we will continue on no matter what happens. And yeah, get these valve cover gaskets swapped out. So let's get to working.
Even the hood anyway is does not fit that one, right? And there's no Jackson emblem. Now, this is story I was heard, and maybe you can confirm it, so they call it...
Man, this might come out really easy. Okay, so far, wow, that's really clean. Yeah, that's the, minus this one tube I might have to fight a little. That is the quickest valve cover removal I've ever done on a, small block type vehicle like this. Really close. Just gotta wiggle it just right here. Okay, that took, I think, 1 minute. Alright, so alternator should be free. There. So that'll give us enough room. The name of the game here is making room for yourself to work. And that's exactly what I'm doing. So zip that off real quick. Plenty of room to get that valve cover gasket out. It shouldn't take too long. Just so we're all on the same page, I do have the negative terminal of the battery disconnected down below. So this alternator lead is red hot. You will send battery voltage to whatever you drag it across, so beware. Stuff that back in there for safekeeping anyways, but I always like to replace hardware while I'm working. So we'll get that out of here. Now I'm hoping I've got enough room to take this off. I don't know quite yet, but I'm getting more confident. I'm gonna loosen up some of these vacuum lines and give it a shot here. Ain't much else to do. How's the harness stuck here? Oh, it's under this stud. That's a stud, interesting. Yeah, I'll peel off a couple more lines and get this valve cover out of here too. Good, there's that one. Alright, so I got the harness tied out of the way. I'm gonna peel off this plastic line so I don't damage it, but I'm gonna vacuum all this chaff out of here too so it doesn't fall into the cylinder head. Alright, so I am really glad I took the extra time to move everything, basically. Pull these out. These seals must just fail after a while. That'd be my guess. This is a very straightforward job. If you haven't done it before on an LT1 car, it's 10 times easier than a TPI car. A little bit of the King playing in the background, and look at that. When you give yourself ample room, that's how easy it is. just a dab of anti-seize on all the steel bolts that go into aluminum materials, just to prevent some galvanic corrosion from occurring. The TPI systems that were out prior to this were much more problematic with that, especially the hex-headed bolts, or especially the Torx-headed bolts that were on the plenum and runners and everything. They'll seize in there, you'll strip them out, it's horrible. So I'll take all this stuff apart. I'm gonna prevent that in the future by just adding some simple anti-seize to everything. Just a little dab will do ya. It should help prevent it from seizing in its bore, you know, in the future. Not for me, for the next guy. So, frankly, here's the first thing I don't like. It's that tensioner was so tight. Jesus. Oh, well, there's your problem. Ain't got no gas in it. Alright guys, so the valve cover gasket job is done. The first side, I'm not joking. I already had the cover off, but this took like 2 minutes to take off. It was very quick. Zip the bolts out, the thing fell out. This car is 93, so your experience may vary. The driver's side took a little bit longer, but honestly, both sides were far easier than any TPI car I've done in the past. Third gen Corvette should be the same, it's an L98. You know, it looks like it's pretty buried in there at first glance, but it's just not. If you pull the alternator and rack it out and loosen the harness, tie it up out of the way, this thing slips right out of there. So, first impressions of working on the top side of the engine, thumbs up. This car does have a double-sided V-belt, which is something I've never seen. Now, the double-sided V-belt means there's grooves on both sides of the belt. So, very interesting. It's something that I haven't been aware of. So, this car is pretty much ready to go. I'm thinking that leak that I had, there was a small oil leak that was in like the engine cradle, and I think it left a tiny spot. I'm assuming it's from the valve covers. Probably the driver's side. This one was worse than the passenger side, so I'm gonna have to get a couple of heat cycles through it. We still have to change the coolant in the car, but I'm gonna wait for fairer weather, because right now we have a bunch of snow coming, and it is just not a time to fire up our garden hose for the year. So I'll have to dump the coolant, I'll fill it with clean water, run it for a while, you know, run it kind of hard, and then dump it and put coolant back in it. So that's it for now. We are going to pick up in a little while on the next project on the car. The last note I wanted to give you guys, the interior turned out pretty good. It's driver quality. I'm pretty happy with how the seat bolster turned out on the driver's side. I got everything reassembled. The car does have black floor mats, and frankly, I'm just not sure if those are the factory color or not. I don't know. I would have assumed they were gray, tan, you know, whatever, but it could have a contrasting floor mat color. That is something I am unaware of, but that's it for now on the interior. I've got the first known mechanical flaw done. Truth be told, I do have to put some more miles on the car before I just throw money at it, because frankly, the car runs really good. There's no sense in really doing anything to it right now. So, more to come. Alright, so I'm basically done clay barring it, and honestly, stepping out for a little bit then coming back into the garage, it presents actually a lot better because all of these grooves and channels in here are just full of black dirt, and you name it, you know, it hadn't been deep cleaned in a very long time. All the body trim edges, everything. It does appear to have a little bit more clarity to it already. I removed a ton, and I mean a ton of black residue and stuff. The Clay bar doesn't look too bad, but the majority of what's lifted gets wiped up by the microfiber towels, and the 2 or 3 that I used ended up just being real black when I was done. So I got a little bit more to do. This will probably actually give you a better idea of kind of what I was starting with. So with getting a light on it, you can actually see the level of clarity that's came back from this door, you know, top and bottom, and the top of the clamshell, the hood. I didn't clean this just to show you guys the difference, but this is about average. Some of the seams were a lot dirtier, some were better. I could maybe do the door a little better here, so I got better light on it. But anyways, this is basically, you know, the difference between just doing a spray wax clay bar type job on the paint and kind of how I got it. So a lot of the bottom half of the car looked like this. The top half wasn't that bad, but I'm gonna go ahead and start cleaning up this final fender vent and a couple other little touches out here, and I'll show you what this is like when I'm all done. But it's a pretty straightforward process. It just is very tedious. This appears to have some tar on it, which I'll have to do maybe another trick to get that cleaned up. And especially under the car, you can see how filthy it still is, but that's something I can clean up after the fact. I really need water and a way to agitate it with a brush and whatnot. But yeah, this is pretty much a result you can achieve in your own garage, and we're going to start achieving a level of clarity when we start buffing the paint, because once this rolling, all the haziness goes away, you're really going to see a clear light on it, and hopefully it's going to look awesome. So again, we're going for driver quality here, and I think we're going to achieve that. So I'm going to get back to work, and I will see you guys when I'm ready to start buffing. Okay, so things developed. I got the final Dr. Pepper logo fully removed from the car, and I don't think you'll get a good angle on it, but right where it was, it is completely gone. I did one pass with M105, and it turned out really well. So I'm happy with that. I do have to do the rest of the hood. I did do a single pass of 105 on the roof, and what it showed me is that it's going to turn out pretty good. Frankly, I don't think doing 105 then 205 is going to render a better result than just the 105 to the naked eye. I really don't. So this is going to be a single stage touch up on the top of the car basically. It's just going to spruce it up a little bit because again, this is a driver and that's really what I'm going to stick to, and the more that I look at it, the more that I see, yes, there's deeper scratches in it than I really thought, and that's going to take a lot to get out. I mean, really a lot of work, and truly, it's not worth it. The car is not worth doing that to. But the top of the car will shine up really well, sides and whatnot. It's going to be an excellent driver. But I got sidetracked, and I'm going to clean up this throttle body in here. It is never been cleaned, I would guess, and it's bone stock. There's not even an airfoil in there, so kind of interesting. Bone stock throttle body. This is as stock gets, other than, you know, having some maintenance done to it. Inside of the air filter housing, we've got a very old and dirty filter. There is one in stock locally for 20 bucks, so I'm gonna grab one of them tomorrow, and we're gonna get a new filter in here, some more. Just overdue maintenance on it, basically. Once that's cleaned up, a fresh air filter, I'm gonna clean up this front air dam plastic area, and until springtime, I'm pretty much gonna leave the engine bay alone. I may pull a spark plug out of here and just see what we're working with and decide whether or not those have ever been done, because who knows. Honestly, they could be in really bad shape or they could be totally fine, and without just pulling one and taking a peek, you don't really know. I'm just gonna get to working, and we're gonna keep cleaning up the car and making it better and better every step of the way. Check out the filter that was in there. It's seen better days, that's for sure. We are going to round file that guy. I got a new filter. We're going to put the assembly back together now that it's all cleaned up and looking great, and get it back under the hood. And honestly, the car is looking strong right now. I could go farther with the paint correction, of course. I talked about that earlier in the video, but like I said many times now, there's a diminishing return on it, and maybe I'll get a bug up my rear end and start going at it more and more, but for now it's looking pretty good, and I want to focus on more mechanical stuff. So I'm gonna get this back together. The throttle body's all cleaned up and moving freely. More to come on that, but for now, let's get this back together. There we go. And it looks like this short one must actually hold this assembly together in hindsight. So I've never taken one of these apart before, so I took all three of these threaded. This is not easy to do on that little thing. I didn't know that taking it apart, so like everything you end up learning. That's about home. But yeah, easy to service. So again, GM is doing okay with serviceability in my opinion. Everything's been pretty straightforward on this car. I mean, no different than anything else I've ever owned. Committing a great sin using a flathead screwdriver on the worm gear clamp. I should grab a socket, but okay, this is a IAT sensor, I think. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I think this is actually ready to start. So maybe we'll fire it up, check for leaks, let it get up to temp, and see if it runs okay after having the battery disconnected there for a little while. But that job's done too. Right now the car actually has a potential buyer who had inquired about the rear spare tire, and I'm glad he did, because what I found was a lot of dirt, some chicken bones, well, let's call them rodent bones. Something had certainly been living back there. And you know, like most cars like this, there's a 90 to 100% chance that the spare tire, which lives in here on a bolt system that holds it up high and out of the way, had never been out of here. Because, you know, most owners, I would say frankly, given a flat tire, they're going to get it towed, whatever, or they're just not driven that much and they don't get a flat tire at an inopportune moment where they get a blowout and there's no other choice. But we got our chicken bones. I'm going to sweep up a little bit, clean up the tire and the tire tray. More importantly, clean up this bolt, because the fella that's talking about buying this was talking about flying back home with it. And I'm glad I checked this here, because what happened was that I twisted this and it actually took the hanger up above it and jumped it out of its little track. And without having a pair of vice grips, you would have been stranded. So this is one little thing that saved a bunch of time, because I tried this in the shop first. So I'm going to go wire wheel this up and then put a little bit of anti-seize down the threads, so when it gets up in there the next time, it can't corrode and seize in there. It'll go in and out of there nice and easy. So enough about that. This is an original 1993 spare tire. I'll clean it up just a little bit and then I will shank it back under the car. So I'll catch up with you guys on the reinstall. How is that for a cleaned up wheel and tire? Almost looks brand new. Frankly, this is probably one of the only times that a spare wheel and jack set has ever been taken out of a car and cleaned. So let's get this thing back under the car where it's going to remain for another 30 unused years. Alright, so the bolt's all cleaned up. We're going to get everything back in once it's dry, but just for scale, this is how much crap was on there. It's a regular sized dustpan, so see you later. Back under the car for the rest of your life. Well, that appears to be seated, so I'm not going to go crazy with it, but spare tire's back in it. It's got tension on it. That's all done. Well, that is a sad sight, and some guys that have been on Facebook have seen for a while that over the last few days I had the Trans Am listed for sale. And I've said this many times, you know, about the track stuff specifically, but it applies to everything. Doing stuff on YouTube is different than doing stuff for YouTube. And this car is for sale, and it's going to be picked up here in a couple hours by a local guy. I got a pretty good deal on it. And I think we made a fair deal considering what's all done to the car. But I am keeping the welds because they're going on the next F-body to the channel. I didn't really think I was going to make this video this spring, this year, or ever. I had no plans on selling the car, and if you guys have watched, this one's been around for quite a few years. But I do go through cars, I clean them up, fix them, enjoy them, and sell them. But that one stuck around. I've had a lot of good memories in it. I've had a lot of fun in it, and it's been just a very good car overall for myself. It's treated me really well, and it's honestly sad to see it go. It is being sold on the stock WS6 wheels. They're in pretty good shape overall. There's a little, corrosion on them and whatnot, but I bought those last year, and honestly, it is just crazy how different it looks on the stock wheels versus the welds. I mean, the welds really set that car off. Well, here it is, the final send off, the last montage you'll see of it. Car's running good, looks good, sounds good. Super nice shape still after the paint correction a couple years ago. Cam's hitting hard. And, I'm gonna go put a couple of bucks in fuel in it, go for one last cruise down the highway. Because in a couple of days, the guys will come and pick it up. He put money down, loan's done. It just didn't land today, it's a Friday, now we're on the weekend, and come Monday, this car is gone, but it'll still be in the twin port. So thankfully it's local, and hopefully one day, anything else happens or changes, maybe I'll get a chance to buy it back. Hopefully it's still in this good a shape because it's crazy nice right now. Anyway, sun's peeking out, it's springtime. Gotta quit moping around. We got a new car coming to the channel in a couple of weeks, so here's the ending montage. We'll see you guys in the next video. So the last little project I'm going to putz with on the Corvette today, I've already kind of done off camera. We have the power antenna relay here and the C449 connector right here, as would be shown in the wiring diagram. This is what will actually connect to the power antenna. So working with this circuit here, C449, and what it basically has you do is you check for power in three ways. You check from terminal A to ground on this side of the connector. I have a good ground right there. Is there power? I had it, yes. Conduct test light from A to C, which is jumping from orange, which is actually going to be jumping from orange to black on this side. Do you have power? If so, yes. If no, follow this. So I had power there. Okay, that's not good. The last check is to see that we're getting power commanded to the radio to power up until it finishes its cycle by turning on the radio. That's really the last thing you check. And on a C4, this is 93, you're going to be going from terminals B to C, and that is the pink to black on the body side of the harness, which is this side, the I guess I would call it the male side of the connector. So checking for all those things. I had power everywhere. Turn the radio off. Does the test light go out? If yes, replace power antenna assembly. So I'm going to take a quick peek in here, but I believe it's a home run from here to the power antenna assembly, which means the assembly has to get replaced. I don't really know what those cost, frankly, off the top of my head, but I did troubleshoot it all the way to the power antenna. It should work, it just doesn't. So, can't hear it trying or anything. I hear all the relays clicking up under the center console, or under the rear hatch area, and everything appears to be fine here. It just doesn't do its thing. So, anyway, I'm gonna look into replacing that, but let's move on to the final project. It is sad to see it go, but I'm excited for what's going to be next in the channel, and I'm buying it from somebody who's a really good dude and has a few cars that are really special, and I'm going to have something a little bit more unique on the channel that I'll also drive, work on, and enjoy while I work on other stuff. So, thank you guys for checking out today's video. We'll say goodbye to the Trans Am for one last time, and we will see you guys in the next video.